working on your street trees.
So that's usually like in the boulevard.
My understanding she's not coming.
No, so a lot of subdivisions, we made everybody plant street trees back in the day.
But is it in that part right between the street and the sidewalk?
Sometimes, sometimes not.
Oh, okay.
Sometimes, sometimes not. But usually it is. We call it the devil strip. Because no one takes care of it, right? I mean, a lot of people don't take care of it.
We have an answer coming. I haven't heard anything.
He does it at night.
Either way.
Are we ready to start?
You're ready to start.
All right, we're going to call to order the scheduled charter, committee for the city of Sherwood and take roll call.
All right. Brian Emer?
Here.
Mark Huddle?
Here.
Dave Grant?
Yep.
Linda Henderson is absent. Lori Holmes?
Here.
Randy Mifflin?
Here.
Bernie Sims?
Here.
Bob Silverford is absent. Nancy Taylor? Here. Renee Rouse is absent. Tim Roser?
Here.
That it? All right. So does anybody have anything they want to add to the agenda? All right, so we're just going to go forward then. Do I have a motion or any changes to the minutes?
Move to approve the minutes for January 24th, 2019.
Second.
Been moved and second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Citizen comments? I don't see any citizens here. All right, well, maybe we'll do it at the end.
I guess we can put anything in here we want then.
If we-
Nobody
yeah.
cares.
So what I just thought we would do, if it's all right with you guys, is just go through the drafts of it one by one, and you guys can express changes, support for it or not. So we're going to start with Section 24, counselors. Have you all had a chance to read the changes to Section 24A and B? If not,
Question though, Mark, these handouts that we have, are these?
So those are we did actually
Citizen
receive some
comments?
public input this
these are public comments that you can receive, and then we can comment on when we hit that issue. So I think
I see.
I think we have three.
One on the 2% and two on public sale of property.
Yeah, I do like the fact that one said, "Are you a resident of Sherwood?" Yes. Residency. I live outside the city limits. We'll listen to them
for
anyway.
us. So
but-
I
don't
think it's the
think it
second one
weighs
that you all
heavily
have,
on
the one
one.
that's from Diane Matthews,
Yeah.
says we agree and support the board's decision not to require a citizen vote to expand the UGB. So that's not even one of the items that's on the list because
That's state law
we
control.
decided not to even look at that one. So I guess we can kind of set that one aside.
Okay, the one from Jack is on the 2%. So when we get there, we all to take note of it. And the other one is from Bob, and he wants us, I think, to go out for a citizen's vote on any property over 5 acres.
And definitely citizens vote may be broader than even the property over 5 acres.
Right. He's really trying to protect just the YMCA. So you guys, we can talk that when we get there, but let's just run through these. Section 24, are you happy with that? Is that what you want it to do?
So that section just defines what we mean by
Terms. So it includes if someone's appointed for 3 months, that counts as one of their terms.
Yes.
Okay, so can we take a formal vote? Because if we take a formal vote on it, we'll vote one more time on everything, but I want to take a formal vote on each one as we go through, because then we'll cross out what we're not going to vote on.
Can we just do hands?
Yeah. Anybody against that one? All right, it's unanimous for it. Mayor, I'll just start with mine. I don't think we should have term limits for the mayor for the reasons we talked about last time. If anything, Lori and I talked about this, and the reason mayor was at 2 terms is because historically the mayor has more power than the council, and he represents the city. He or she. Right now it's a he. 2 years or a year ago it's a she. And so we thought we'd give the citizens more of a vote on the mayor. On the flip side, the mayor is also the most important one to make sure we get regional dollars and regional play. And as we were explaining, we missed out on the last MISTIF fund because we had no one that understood what was going on back there. So we will get no Washington County dollars for Sherwood to improve any of our transportation in I don't know which cycle, it'll probably be in 2 or 3 cycles, because we didn't have anybody there to advocate for us. So I think if we had 20 people running for mayor and we had 5 of them that were really good, I'd say, yeah, we got plenty of people. But we haven't had that problem in Sherwood, to be quite honest with you. Usually it's a run mouth between 2 people.
Just to add some color for everyone on that, just today I was at the Washington County Emergency Mayor's meeting, filling in for Keith, because Metro is asking for input on how the 20 and 20 bond money will be spent on transportation projects. And it's not just a matter of going to that meeting and holding your hand up. It's a matter of being there, being present, having relationships with all the players, and being able to, I hate to say it, work the politics to make sure that the money is coming to Sherwood that we deserve. And if we're cycling that talent too quickly, it's going to be very difficult for us. And at the end of the day, voters are going to decide who's in office.
But again, I go back to why can't the mayor be the same 4-year term? I understand the agenda setting and the veto power, but at the end of the day, I think for the city, for the benefit of our town, it would behoove us to have a mayor in that position longer than 2 years to be able to do the legislative, relationship building and money obtaining that they need.
I totally agree with you. As we cut back their power on the one hand, we need them there in the long term. I just don't know if this cycle is the right time to do it because of the other stuff we're doing. But I think you could make a note. Does anybody else have any comments on wanting the term limit?
I mean, if we're not going to change the number of years on the term, I disagree with the term limit.
Okay, so everybody would want to cross off B then. Is that right? All those in favor of crossing off B?
Aye.
Okay, so we're going to cross off B. Do we want to put a note forward to the council to say, we've talked about extending the 2-year term to a 4-year term, and if you're going to do that, then we'd want to put term limits of 3 years on the mayor? Is that something you want to give to them, or do you just want to keep it clean?
I think that's useful.
Okay. So if you could just tell the council that we talked about term limits, and if they really want to do term limits, we would strongly recommend they increase the mayor's office to 4 years and then put a term limit of 3 years on him. 3 terms.
Yeah.
3 terms. On him. Yeah. Yeah. But we'll leave it up to there. Is everybody okay with that? Okay.
Yeah, and just for the record, one of the reasons I don't like the 2-year term is it's like they got to constantly be running.
Yeah.
And it's like, are they getting their job done if they're running? No, you can't. I mean, those are 2 very different things.
So I think Tim made a good point is, when I ran for mayor, I ran twice against somebody, the same person. And you're really only running for like a month or 2.
Running hard,
Really?
Yeah. Because the top two go out of May, and if there's only 2 running, you just wait until August to put up your signs, and then you go around and talk to everybody. But assuming Sherwood gets bigger and we have hopefully we get more involvement, that could become a problem. All right, council quorum. The only change I would make to that is nominated, and you can't be elected because you could have appointed people, and we need to count them also.
Should it be appointed and elected then?
Yeah, so council consists of the mayor and 6 councilors from the city, or elected or appointed from the city. That's my only comment on that.
You're saying change nominated to appointed?
No, he's saying elected or.
Appointed or elected, yeah.
Appointed or elected.
Or elected, yeah.
Because somebody crafty could say, oh, you don't get a vote because you weren't elected, and that's what the charter says.
Right, that covers all cases then.
Yep, that covers them. Does anybody else have any changes with number 7, section 7? All those anybody want to vote against it? All right, so I'm just going to take that as everybody wants to vote for it.
We're in favor of it as amended.
Yeah, that's amended. You're getting your motions down. Rules 10. Anybody have any problems with that? Unless you say I have a problem with it, I'm just say, all right, we're all in agreement with it, and then we'll have a formal vote at the end.
Is Is there any concern about it being just a simple majority? Okay, then, no, fine.
Meetings, the process for creation of a council meeting agenda will be prescribed by council rules. The number of councilors equal to a majority of the quorum may cause. So what we're doing here is we're allowing a minority of the council to place something on the agenda, which is brand new to Sherwood. No, actually, the Supreme Court does it that way. In order to get something to go up, you only need so many. You don't need the majority to vote it up. You just need a quorum, the same amount that equals a quorum to vote it up. That gives more say to everybody. I think that's good.
And the council adopted that in their rules this year.
Oh, good.
So, yeah.
Okay.
Right, and we just didn't want, one of the reasons we suggested is we didn't want a future council to be able to take that power away.
Because they'd be able to change the rules every year. The rules are
That's right.
approved every year. And so putting it in the charter actually keeps it there till.
Right.
Yeah.
Totally. So unless somebody opposes that, I'm just going to move on. A quorum. We just simply defined what a quorum is. Okay. Any heartburn there? All right. Vote required.
The yellow highlights there are the changes from the last time that you saw this.
Yeah, what, pardon me?
Or the changes from the last time that you saw this. So far, everything that we've looked at is from the same as the last meeting. The yellow highlights are the changes.
We added supermajority.
Added the supermajority, based on our conversation about potentially requiring a supermajority for certain votes, in particular the sale of certain real property over 5 acres.
So a supermajority is 5 councilors and or mayor positions, or just 5?
5 people.
5 people.
So is
Okay,
this
perfect.
Is this to eliminate any concern of someone not showing up?
It's 5 no matter what. Also, so even if you have vacancies on council.
Okay.
So if you had 3 vacancies, you wouldn't be able to get a very small number of councilors.
Well, no, because if you have 5 on council and all 5 vote yes,
It's a
and there's
supermajority.
vacancies, you
Right.
still have a unanimous approval.
Right, a supermajority.
Yeah.
Right.
So, but
That-
this charter requires unanimous approval, supermajority approval, or approval by a majority of the council. So I'm just making sure that unanimous approval and supermajority, we're not just repeating the same thing.
So unanimous would be all 7 if you have 7.
Exactly, right. But-
Supermajority is 5.
5.
Majority is 4.
But if you only had 5 on the council, you could have both a supermajority and a unanimous vote.
Yes, it would be the same thing.
Okay.
Yes, at that point.
Just making sure.
Okay. So we're all good with that? All right. D, approval by a majority of the council shall mean approval by the majority of the council and mayor positions that are not vacant. Okay? Any problems with that? Section 16, 3. We just got rid of vote of all sitting councilors and just approval upon being read twice.
So we defined unanimous approval in the earlier sections. Now we're just using that terminology instead of including the definition kind of in the subsection.
Do we want it unanimous or do we want it supermajority? I don't care because it's just making it being read twice, right?
This is to do something, adopt an ordinance in a single meeting instead of in multiple meetings. So
This
basically,
This
like an
doesn't apply to
emergency type.
emergency because you can always declare an emergency with a majority.
So an emergency is for the effective date of the ordinance.
Right.
This is for being able to do it in one hearing.
Okay.
This is why Keith and I had to dial in for a meeting from China.
Yeah.
Oh.
We had to do it all in one night. Yep.
That's why I'm asking is, do we want it to be a supermajority instead of unanimous in order to do something in one night? Do you see any? I mean, my concern is so we don't have to have somebody calling from China just because it needs to get done, and so we're having people having to kind of go out of their way to do that versus if it in a supermajority.
The idea generally is that a majority or even a supermajority can approve something in the usual course.
Right.
It should be a pretty extraordinary circumstance where you're going to be approving something in a single hearing where you're limiting the public's ability to be
Okay.
informed and involved.
I don't have
And
a problem. I'm good with that.
And with technology today, it really wasn't.
China calling isn't so bad. Yeah.
Okay. F is just you're getting rid of the 4 councilors and just putting majority in there. So does anybody have any problems with 16?
I
Sure.
A little humorous comment. I did find it interesting that I was sitting in a communist country doing a very,
Yeah.
Doing a very
democratic act. That was going through my brain when I was sitting next to a mean
I hope they don't crash it.
Yeah, were you concerned that they might be recording it, and
Yeah,
maybe you wouldn't make
exactly.
it back to the airport or something?
Exactly.
All right, that's good. That's
Thumbs
17.
up right there, right?
Glad you made it back, too.
Okay. 17, we're just saying unanimous instead of all counselors, and what's required to take effect in the same. Now, I thought there was also a way for them to declare an emergency so it took effect also at the same time. Can't they do that?
So this is the emergency.
Okay, so on an emergency, we're going to still require a unanimous vote, even if it's an.
vote to declare an emergency.
Okay.
That's what we currently do.
Okay. So 32 is to clarify the filling of vacancies. And if I remember, isn't this the one that they have to fill it within 45 days or just keep it open or something like? I mean, what are we doing here?
So it's kind of a clarification and reorganization. The way it was written currently was very convoluted to try to parse through. So under the new language, we would require a filling of a vacancy within 45 days of the date of the vacancy by appointment. And that appointment runs until either the end of the term, if the term is less than 13 months remaining, or until the election, if it's more than 13 months remaining.
Right.
You have to hold an election. And then it requires the election if there's more than 13 months remaining in the term.
Okay.
And is 45 days a good number of days for those of you that have been in these roles? Seems like that's pretty reasonable time.
I was thinking it was kind of fast.
Yeah, we did
Somebody
have,
resigns in June because they're moving because they got changed. Everybody's on vacation for July, and they've
Oh.
got to get the word out to get people to get interviewed so they can do it. But they should be able to do it in 45 days. That shouldn't be a
I
problem.
would think so. So just historical context, the issue that we had with the vacancy left by Councilor Dan King was, under the current language, it's kind of ambiguous about whether that 45 days applies if less than 13 months remain in the
Right.
term. And so they took much longer than 45 days to fill that vacancy.
Anybody have any heartburn with filling vacancies, section 32? Okay, we'll move on. 13. This is the one that's the double majority we're just getting rid of because how we're changing everything else.
Yeah, so what I'm suggesting here, for some reason that citizen initiative put this language in the ordinance adoption section, which it applies to ordinances and resolutions, and so it doesn't really make sense to be in the ordinance adoption section. So I'm suggesting putting it in its own section about what vote is required on certain taxes, charges, and fees.
Under section 48.
Yeah.
To 47, yeah.
Okay.
So we're moving it to its own section where it makes more sense in the structure of the charter. And then the only substantive change is to change the number of elections where just a majority vote is required in order to
Right.
approve something like that. From general elections in even-numbered years to May or November of any year.
Right.
So it's November of even-numbered years to May or November of any year.
Which is just in compliance with Oregon law, right?
Here's the state constitutional provisions on a similar subject.
Right.
Is this watering it down at all? Honestly.
So, I mean,
Yes,
I think
in the
that-
sense that
the parallel, I think the parallel to the state constitution is really almost directly on point, where there was a citizen initiative that put limits on when certain things could be increased, taxes could be increased, and it was extremely restrictive in terms of what elections could be used to approve that. And voters, when they get to vote on something like that, it's a package deal. They don't get to pick and choose which parts they want to approve. So they liked the whole concept, and they voted in favor of the whole concept. Then the Oregon legislature said, that's a too limited number of elections. It's just not workable. So we're going to suggest that we leave everything else in place, but we just open it up to more elections. So you still have to have voter approval to do it. There's just more opportunities for the voters to be able to give that approval.
And not have to wait as long.
Right. And so the voters approved that resoundingly as well.
so we're just the only water down is the old version was we could only do it every other
Those
year.
are 2 years.
Yeah.
And you're saying every year?
Every year in May or November, right? So the major elections of any year would allow, and it still requires a voter approval. It's just more opportunities for the voters to be able to give their approval or not give their approval.
Does anybody have any heartburn with 16 and 47 since they're the same? We're all good with that? Okay.
I'm just gonna voice an objection because it was a citizen's
Right.
ordinance.
Okay.
And it was crafted by citizens, and even though we may not agree with it, I'm just going to say citizens did like it and
Okay.
voted it in,
So we do have a citizen, a public input comment on this one.
Right. And they were against it.
I want to see the 2% cap on water and other fees kept or even lowered as a retired senior citizen and a fixed income is hard enough to make ends meet. So we're not changing the 2% number. We're just changing the number of elections.
Right.
And when it went in, it was also understood, the reason, I'm close to it. The reason why it seemed important at the time is that the rates were gonna go up much
No, right.
faster and higher, and when the 2% came in, golly gee, we're able to handle it. And so far.
It's interesting how that works, isn't it?
Well, I think it's a good point too. Do you really need that? That's enough, but I just want to say, for the record,
Yeah,
citizens did it, and I don't see the citizens doing a lot of things like this, so I would hate to water down the citizens.
So what I'd like the record to reflect is that on section 16 and section 47, there's a nay vote. But I want her to be, when we have the big vote, I don't want it to be all or nothing. I want her to be able to parse and say, I vote for everything but this one. Okay? Does that make sense to everybody? Okay.
And I'm not voting against it, I'm just saying I think it's important that we are cognizant of the fact that this was a citizens' initiative.
Right.
It wasn't handed down by council, it wasn't handed down by government, it was something citizens did. And it's so rare in Sherwood.
Right, no, it's rare to get everybody that involved. All right, this is the big one that we had the comment on, that they want a citizen vote on any recreational facility, but we've talked this through. Does anybody have any issues they'd like to talk about on this one? The next one, which is section 48.
There was
Two comments.
Yeah, so there's the initial comment that I received when I asked him for his feedback, which is what this committee had asked me to do. He said it doesn't address what he was trying to accomplish. That this language does not address what he was trying to accomplish. Then just today, he provided some more detail in terms of what it is he wanted to see and kind of his concerns about how the committee didn't respond to his concern. Which is really just the first 2 pages of the attachment.
All right.
So you want us to review this with a large type? It's the first,
The front and back of the first page would probably be the only thing that you would
the
want to
letter
read.
to Renee and Tim.
Yes.
And can I ask just one quick question about this amendment on the sale of real property? And that is, how many parcels do we have that do exceed the 5 acres? I know there's a lot of little,
No, we have, so Stella Olson.
I'm not talking about the parks. I'm talking about land that could, land that could possibly be sold.
Well, we have.
Parks is an important one because we talked at the last meeting about how there was a city in Oregon that tried to convert a park into a subdivision. So this would include.
I know, I like the language that it includes it, but in my mind, I'm thinking,
Well, the
If we were gonna
YMCA is a recreational facility for the Sherwood, and it's 8 acres.
It's 8 acres.
Yeah, it's 8 acres.
Yeah.
Technically
So just so you
applies to
know,
our
it's
park
Stella
requirement
Olson,
on our SDCs. Huh?
Snyder Park. There's actually a stormwater facility in between the wildlife refuge and the city that we own off of Murdoch. Is that right?
Is it used primarily for park and recreation purposes?
No. It's actually, we own the land and we have a lot of our stormwater going into it. It's right on the downward slope, right off of Oregon Street, or just on the opposite street of Tonkin. If right across Tonkin, we own like 6 acres there, and we put part of our stormwater in there. There's actually 3 acres, well, the other one's 3 acres, but those are the only ones I know that we own that's over 5 acres.
Anyone know how many acres the Public Works property is?
Yeah, that may be 3 to 5. It's somewhere in there. It's not, I don't think it's quite 5 acres.
And so that was the one that we were concerned about potentially if it did reach that threshold, which is why we put the primarily used for park and recreation purposes.
No, I like that. I mean, let's just hope we never get to that, right? We promise.
Well, my comment on this whole issue is also, hey, you get what you vote into office. I mean, we are a republic and not a democracy, and, several of us warned the citizens that this was likely to happen, and it happened, and, citizens have to bear the consequences of their vote, too. When you vote a bunch of people in that you were warned about specifically that they wanted to do that and everybody ignored it, citizens have to bear the responsibility of their vote. That's why we have that why we had that problem. That's why we went to supermajority too. I mean, hopefully 5 won't.
I see an absolute distinction between Stella Olson Park and the Y. And that is, you have to buy a membership to the Y, and you don't to Stella Olson Park. So they are different properties.
Different uses for the same purpose, recreation.
They're both recreational facilities. I'll give you that. One is privatize the profit and
Not profit.
socialize the cost.
Not profit.
It is, somebody's doing, you wouldn't be able to pay salaries and everything else if there wasn't something going on there. Why would we be charged at the Y? Why would we be charged a membership?
Well, a nonprofit doesn't mean that they don't charge money. It means that at the end of the day, there's no stockholders that's getting rewards. It means that their cost of doing business is covered, and it's highly regulated by the state of Oregon. You can demand audits of them and so forth. So the Y is a nonprofit, although it does cost money, because if the city managed it, we would still have to charge people money to do it because the city tax base doesn't do it.
We don't charge people to go to the park.
We actually do charge all the kids that play on the park fields. We all charge them money to use our park fields.
Stella Olson facility.
I don't know if you realize that. So if you see a bunch of kids playing soccer up there that's in uniforms, somebody paid, all those kids paid for those.
I think what you're referring to is someone wants to just walk through Stella Park.
Yeah.
Versus the Y. Yeah.
Or
If I want to exercise my walk, and I'm not saying I don't agree with this language. I'm just saying there is.
There's no question. But I would also say that this building and that other building over there, the community centers, we run them as nonprofit. But if you want to use it for a reception, we charge you a boatload of money to do it.
The distinction is between gross and net profit.
Right.
Well,
And-
Exactly.
again, I'm just a liaison, but I can poke a hole in the language right here because hypothetically, a future nefarious council could take the YMCA property, subdivide it in half, and get the building under 5 acres and no longer require a vote of the people.
No question, they could do that.
So with this language, if the city sold the property to the school for the new high school, we would have had to go to vote to do that.
Not if the property wasn't recreational property or park property.
Oh, primarily for parks and rec, you're right. That was purchased for other reasons. Okay.
I met with Bob, and I can tell you kind of in his paraphrase.
You know what? We could do that. We could add subdivide right there. Before the city may sell or subdivide any parcel of real property owned by the city which is greater than 5 acres.
Josh, would that work?
Does that address his concern? I haven't.
No, it doesn't address his
So,
concern.
I mean, his concern, Mr. Eddy's concern, I'll let you speak to too, but he's concerned about more than just sale or even dividing a property. He's concerned about even like a repurposing, right? So, for example, if you're trying to decide who should operate the facility that's currently
Right.
operated by the YMCA.
That's right.
Wants that to go to a vote of the people.
Basically, what I heard from him was if there's any service the city's providing that's significant, I don't know how you define that, there should be a vote of the people before it goes away. And
That's the unruly mob that Athens found to be very disturbing, and that's why we went to a republic.
So what happens in a city where there is a Y and it isn't city-owned and it goes under for bad financial?
They go bankrupt. They have to file bankruptcy.
So what would happen if this one, for some reason, went bankrupt?
Well, they would go bankrupt on their operation, and it'd be up to the trustee of whether they would reformulate I mean, it's kind of complicated, but the trustee has superpowers there to work with the city on either reformulating the lease agreement we have, or us just saying,
Taking over.
or just them walking away, essentially, and
The physical plant would just revert back to us.
yeah, but we own the
Okay,
plant.
and then at that point, if we wanted to do something with it, if we said, okay, we looked at numbers, we don't really want to run this, there's no other organization that wants to come in, can we sell it?
We'd have to go to a vote of the people.
Right.
Not currently, but that's what Bob
Not
Eddy
today.
wants.
With this language, though.
With this language, we would.
It's still a supermajority vote of city council, not the people.
Oh, you're right.
Oh, you're right, it does say that.
Right, but I don't want it to go, I don't
don't want
think
it to go to the people.
I don't
absolute-
either.
No, it's an absolute overreach to have a vote, and it's gonna cost the city, and where's that money gonna come from? Are we gonna put in our budget money for a potential vote, you know what I mean, like, I think if there's a super majority vote, and if the citizens have an issue, they should come to city council and vote and voice
Recall
their
them if they
issue.
want.
Recall them, elections have consequences.
That's exactly right. I would say this. I was one of the 3 main people that got the Y to come to Sherwood. I went out there door to door to neighborhoods. We had coffees. We did all that stuff. And never, because it was significantly smaller, and it was a burden to the citizens, quite frankly, for the bond. But never in our wildest dreams, nor I would hope in the current administration's wildest dreams, did we say, it's forever a Y. This city will never change to the point where we may want to go a different way. Because we don't know what tomorrow brings. We don't know if Tigard, we tried this once, Tigard, Tualatin, and Sherwood want to join create our own recreational district and do something along the school, because and we don't want to stop good governance and a vote of the people every time some people are vested so heavily with one organization. We're not here to support the Y, they're there to support us. And we leave it up to our council to help us understand the depth of that support. That's why I would never agree to a vote of the people. So does that address your concerns? Do you want to add or subdivide, or do we want to leave them with that possibility that there may come a time where they need to subdivide and get rid of the building, and they want to
They
keep
can
the
still
state
do it,
cost?
they just
They
have to
can-
have a supermajority.
City council, so they'd have to present,
council.
they'd have to present a reasonable,
Putting the skate park in there?
We're not
No.
No, it's
subdividing.
not subdivided.
Subdividing is a legal consequence where we actually split off a
Still
parcel
public
and
land.
have it's unique from any other parcel. This is the parks one. So would you like us to put or subdivide?
Is there a concern of anyone's?
Well, I think it closes a little loophole.
Okay.
Yeah,
Doesn't
there's
hurt.
no material change to the
Fine.
intent of the
Well-
language if we add subdivide.
I agree.
So,
But it helps address the concerns of some people. that might
exactly,
have that. So I
yeah,
like it.
yeah, exactly.
Before the city may sell or subdivide any parcel of real property owned by the city which is greater than 5 acres and which is used primarily for parks and recreational purposes, the city's council must authorize such sale or subdivision by a supermajority vote.
I want to just loop one more time to what Nancy was saying. If this was disputed, Josh, maybe you can jump in here. If this became disputed, could someone say, no, it's the Y? It's not really parks, or does recreation legally bring the Y property into this? Or could someone argue, we're talking about Stella Olson here?
How's it zoned right now?
Medium density residential.
It's not even zoned appropriately.
Well, we may
That helps.
It may, so
Great.
that's a great point. It may make sense to say, instead of park and recreation purposes, to say park or recreation purposes. It says park and recreation right now, park or recreation,
Right.
because YMCA is not really a park purpose.
No.
Can I
but it's
suggest to the
rec.
council liaison that you guys get that piece zoned?
You guys
as
work that out.
recreation- Institutional recreation?
I did bring that up with Joe. That needs to be corrected. Yeah.
Yeah, but doesn't it come to
So
us
then that kind of
first,
gets
Mark?
rid of it, because
It does.
now it's recreation, it's zoned for recreation, it's used for recreation. We
Right.
lease it out as recreation, we have a skate park there for recreation.
What's the designation we put on the parks today?
It's usually institutional.
That's right. We could change it to that.
Okay, I'm good with it then.
Okay, so we're good with it, adding in two places the word or subdivide. Anybody else have anything they'd like to?
So in that last little bit, did you want to change it to park and or recreation purposes?
Park or recreation purposes.
Park or recreation.
Okay.
What it would,
Yeah.
what it would be now?
Before the city may sell or subdivide any parcel of real property owned by the city which is greater than 5 acres in size and which is then used primarily for park or recreation purposes, the city council must authorize such sale or subdivision by supermajority vote.
I'm sorry to mince words, but why is the word then in there? Then infers later.
At that time is being used.
Which is currently, then could be current. Okay, got it. I'm good.
Or you could say then
At that
existing.
time.
You could add a hyphen and put then existing, which is.
Don't do it
then
for me. I'm
retired.
just wondering if it's just
No,
extraneous.
but that's good. When you read it that way, it did feel like subsequently, like somebody bought it, and then they were going to do something. We don't give a rip about that.
Do we want to just take it out and so
could
it
say
says which is used
currently
primarily?
Currently used.
Yeah, currently. Or at the time.
Or just take out
No,
the
no,
then?
no,
and
no, no,
just
no. You
says
don't want to
which
say
is-
currently because then somebody could say.
Which
Yeah.
is then.
That's why I said then instead of currently,
Taking out
because
the then.
currently is at the time of the.
I think the term of art we want is, actually, I just had litigation for a whole day yesterday on this term. Then existing, what does that mean? Then existing.
How about which is at that time?
Oxymoron.
How about which
No, it
is
actually means
used?
which is a triggering event, and then
Take out then.
that event that's occurring at the triggering event.
Used
then
primarily for parking.
What I
or
was trying to get at
recreation.
is that it's at the time of this action taking
I
place.
was.
Say it is used for that. If we're looking at a parcel that was used that way historically but hasn't been for 10 years. So I was trying to get at the time that this action.
No, I think you're right to do that.
So how about which is at that time used?
I like it.
I mean, at that point, you might as well just leave
Retroactive.
then in.
Well, no, you can, the clarifying would be which is at the time of the vote, primarily.
At that time.
Which is being used?
Being is a good word.
Which is being used primarily for park or recreation purposes.
Being, I like.
You know, for every time we come up with a way around something, it opens the door for something.
I knew it was going to happen. I had to say it.
Which is being used. If I was on the city council, I'd say, we're going to stop using that piece.
How we keep
Now,
the
from here
attorneys
forward,
employed.
this is no longer a park, and we're going to go sell it.
Right.
But anyway,
Okay.
I don't know.
Which is being used.
Okay, are we all good with that?
Yes. Are you good?
Yeah, which is being used.
Yep. It's in there.
Okay, got it.
We're changing 2015 to 2020 for obvious reasons. Section 14, council rules and Oregon public records and meetings law.
This is the housekeeping section, so
Yeah,
hopefully this part will go pretty.
this is the
Yeah.
boring section. Okay, so instead of me going through them all, could somebody point out any one of these they have a problem with?
I'm just back to 14 real quick.
Yeah, go ahead.
Do you want to limit that to just Oregon Public Records Law, or, I mean, the federal government could come out with rules around record keeping, right? Or the county, I'm just thinking,
They don't generally have rules in regards to local municipalities. They impose it upon the state, and then the state imposes it on us.
Yeah, that seems like a pretty dramatic federal overreach.
I know, I just,
Shocking.
I just,
I guess that's not unheard of. So. We could just say prescribed by the council rules and applicable law or something, if you wanted to be more broad.
I just hate having to go change the charter again because.
Well, we do it every 5 years.
Yeah.
Here's the truth of it is, let's assume our charter says this and the federal government comes out and says, you have to keep your records on tape. We're obligated to follow the federal law and not this. I mean, we could sue them and say, no, our charter says this, but when federal law preempts, we just have to follow regardless of what our charter says.
So then do we just say, and
I think we
applicable
just-
public
that's a good
records and
point.
meetings
I would just
law?
leave it the way it is because we have to comply with whatever law is prevailing at the time, even if our charter tells us something.
Yeah, and I think where my brain was the other section where we use the state's definition of an incinerator. And if the state changed the definition to something we don't like, then
Right.
those are the situations I was trying to avoid.
All right, now back on, does anybody have any concerns with anything else? He got all of his punctuation right down there? These are all just, and then we're getting rid of the Willamette River water because we had to vote on that and it shouldn't be in there anymore. Okay, do you want to go through it one more time real quick, or are you good with the changes we made to it? Okay. Josh, are you clear on the changes we made?
Yes.
Okay. Does anybody have any questions on anything we've done? Good.
What do we plan, does this have to go before a vote?
Yeah, well, it has to go up to city council,
Okay,
and then out to a vote.
then when they put it out for the actual vote, they're gonna break it into little pieces, right?
Well, what they're doing is, so draft amendment number 1 would be one vote, draft amendment 2 would be another different vote, draft 3 would be a different vote, and then 5 is just the housekeeping. So there will be 5 different votes, is what we're anticipating. Is that right, Josh? So there's 5 different
How much
measures.
text does that amount to then in the voters?
So most of the,
We got about
yeah, some
5 pages here, so that's gonna bring
we
it down
might
to what,
choose
like 2 pages? That seems like a lot in the voters.
Some of these may not fit in the explanatory statement. They definitely will fit in the ballot title. Some of these won't. When you vote on a state measure, they don't put the whole measure language in there either.
Right.
So you summarize what the measure would do, and then you have the actual language on file and available.
Does that help you so you understand it's not just going to be yay or nay, but
Yeah, I don't wanna see the whole thing go down
All right.
because one issue is
All right.
hot.
And we may,
and the council may change it.
and we may chunk it. We may say, let's do 1 and 2 this select cycle, and then we'll hold off on the other ones for the next cycle.
So one thing to consider, since you got rid of, in draft amendment number 1, you got rid of the mayor term limits, whether that changed to section 24B is really that substantive, or if you want to throw that into the housekeeping measure.
Lost one.
Oh, yeah. So
It's just kind of a clear.
I think you need to talk to the council, because the council may say, we want to move the mayor to 4 with the 3-year term limit, but if they say, we just want to keep it the way it is, then it would just become a housekeeping issue. Does that make sense? So what I would need from somebody is a motion to adopt the draft amendments as specified on the 4-419 Charter Review Committee meeting. I'm just reading not the actual date, but just so it's clear that this is the document as amended.
I move we adopt the draft amendments as amended on 4/10/19.
Second.
All right, it's been moved and seconded. Does anybody have anything they would like to add or say before we have a formal vote? I'm going to split this vote into two parts. So I'm going to ask for everybody to vote for it or against it, and then if anybody would like to vote against any particular section. That way, first, I'm going to do it backwards. Does anybody wish to vote against any particular section? So Amendment 1, 2, 3, which is
I'm voting against 3.
okay. So you would like to vote against 3. All right.
I'd like to,
What I'm going to do is, if you lose this vote, then we're going to do the whole thing, and you can vote for the whole thing. Okay. All those in favor of Amendment 3, say aye. Aye. All those against?
aye.
There was one against, that would be recorded, and the rest was aye, so it passes. Now I would like a motion to adopt the thing as a whole.
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to adopt, as amended, the draft amendments of 4/10/19 Charter Review Committee meeting. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those against? It was unanimous to vote for moving this to the council for them to consider.
So the resolution that the city council adopted when they formed this committee instructed the committee to prepare a final report and have the chair or some other committee member present that to the city council. Do you want to prepare a separate report, or do you want this to just be the report?
I don't want to prepare a separate report. I think if we can answer questions, I can go with, but it would be nice if somebody else wanted to go, so that not one voice is. I don't want to be accused of saying anything that the committee. I'd like two people there. It's always
Is this on the
I can
agenda
do it
yet?
with you.
No, not yet.
So if you could all go, it'd be nice if everybody go, because we'll ask them to agendize it right after their citizens' comments. You guys do citizens, pledge allegiance. And if they'd agendize it first, we could get up there and say, we had one vote against one amendment of it, but once that was defeated and we moved it forward, she voted for the whole thing. What we didn't do is prioritize it for the council. I think that's really for them to prioritize and decide how they would like to do it, because it's their political capital that really is at risk for sending this out.
Does it make sense, though? Would it be helpful to have a summary? I can create a summary by amendment number of what is being changed.
Laura, if they can't figure it out by reading that, then they ought not be on the council.
You can tell them we said that.
Right. Or what our recommendations are. The only one I wouldn't be able to do would be number 3, because I would have to get a better understanding of Nancy's viewpoint.
I think if there could be a significant number of you at the meeting to ask questions,
that would be
they're going to be very, Nancy, they're going to want to know why you voted against the one. There'll be a lot of questions on that. And I think that's enough. And correct me if I'm wrong, if you do a summary, then I think the rest of the committee will need to look at that.
Yeah, we'd have to go around again.
We don't want to do that.
Yeah. I mean, the big things are term limits or expanding the mayor term to 4 years, Nancy's concerns on number 3, and that's it, really. Right?
I think a clear understanding of the recreation and parks, because there will be people there wanting us to say, if you're going to kick the Y out, it has to be to a citizen vote, and we want to say, no, that's not the purpose of city government. All right.
We've addressed it with a supermajority. That's what
Right,
that's how we decided to cover that. Yeah.
So one last piece. So this committee will stay technically in existence in case the city council has something they want to refer back to this committee at some point for further public input or discussion. At some point, if city council decides to refer everything to the ballot and they're done with this committee, we'll have this committee have one final meeting to approve the minutes of this meeting and officially disband. You should all feel free to attend that meeting by phone. We'll have that meeting in this room so the public can attend if they want to. But you should feel free to call in. It should be like a 5-minute meeting just to officially take those final actions.
So I'd like to thank everybody
Yeah,
for,
me too.
Citizen involvement in Sherwood has always been like pulling teeth, quite frankly, and it's good to get citizens out to look at how we govern ourselves. So I'd like to thank you all for participating. And anybody else have anything they'd like to say before we leave?
I have to tell a story. Okay, so I have a brother who lives in Massachusetts. He's very involved. He's a councilman and all that. And we were talking about the mayor situation here, and he said, well, I have to tell you a really funny story. We had a mayor here that was voted on to be pulled out of office, but on the ballot, there were 5 or 6 people running, and he put himself back on the ballot. So he got pulled out of office, but back in office.
Interesting.
Same ballot.
On the same night of the vote.
Same night, yeah.
Oh my
Isn't that
goodness.
just
You know what though?
priceless story?
That's legal in Oregon too. You can be recalled, and then when they have it doesn't prevent you from running again if you want. And I've seen that happen before. They
Yeah,
haven't
but
won.
she's saying they
No, it
did
was
the
on the
recall
same
I
election.
don't know how they did it on the same night.
Yeah,
Did it
because
on the
usually a
same
recall,
ballot?
here a recall is a separate ballot.
Right,
which
no,
is
no,
first.
yeah, there it was the same ballot.
You know what?
And I just think it's
I lived in
gorgeous.
Massachusetts. It's Massachusetts, and if you live
Yeah,
there,
it's
completely
It's Massachusetts
I-
politics.
I just want to echo what you said. I representing council, I really appreciate you guys doing these meetings. I mean, that story really resonates with me because, and I don't think we realize here on the West Coast and in Sherwood what a bubble we live in terms of integrity in government. My company did business in New Jersey, and New York, and Mass, and I've
Illinois?
You have to walk around with a big wad of cash to just pay people as you walk in.
No lie, a mayor in Louisiana in an open meeting gave one of my sales rep his card with the amount of money he needed to sell his house. So
my God.
So the corruption, like you're talking about, and stuff you deal with in other parts of this country is real and evident. And we're very lucky we don't have to deal with a lot of that here.
If I knew that when I was mayor, I'd be a lot richer. I didn't know you could actually put it on the back of your card.
Jail.
Maybe we gotta get rid of those term limits, man.
Then we'd have the term limits shortened.
So I just have a housekeeping question. So when would be the city council meeting that this would come up?
I think it's scheduled for May, isn't it?
We'll do it as soon as we can. Get on it now. I'll send out a notification.
So I would go, it
You'll
just
let us
depends on
know.
which one and if I'm available.
Probably would be that first one in May. I think May 7th is the.
They have to have it in May because to get it on the ballot for November, they've got to get the timeline.
Some of these, I think they're going to want to make sure is on the November ballot for sure.
All right, I'll adjourn the meeting. Thanks, guys.
All right, thank you, Mark.